Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
We love to get into the nitty-gritty of success, and today we're going to do just that with the one and only Steve Ballmer, former CEO of Microsoft.
The big cheese himself. Yeah.
Exactly, and we're going beyond just the surface level billionaire success story stuff.
All right.
We want to uncover the real how and why behind his approach. I think there are some really great lessons here for anyone, no matter what you're working on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this isn't just for aspiring tech moguls or something. This is about those fundamental principles that can apply to just about any field.
Totally. And to really kick things off, I think it's important to remember that Ballmer, he wasn't one of the original Microsoft founders like Bill Gates.
Right. He was actually employee number 30.
Can you imagine?
Back in 1980. I mean, talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Seriously, what a wild ride that must have been. But let's be real here. It wasn't just luck that got him to the top. This guy was known for his drive, his competitive spirit.
Yeah.
He really pushed Microsoft's sales efforts and helped them dominate the world of personal computing.
It's true. He was a force to be reckoned with. And by the time he became CEO in 2000, he'd already made a huge impact on the company's trajectory.
For sure. But one thing that always stood out to me about Ballmer was his energy. I mean, you've seen those clips of him giving speeches, right?
Oh, yeah.
The guy was practically vibrating with enthusiasm.
It's legendary. I mean, developers, come on.
I mean, who hasn't seen it? It's iconic. But, thinking about it, how does the energy you bring to your own work impact those around you?
That's a great question. I think it can make a world of difference.
I do too.
Ballmer, he really believed that energy and emotion are contagious. He thought it was absolutely key to driving teams, to inspiring people to achieve extraordinary things. There's this one story that I think really captures this. Have you ever heard about the time he jumped off the stage at a conference?
Wait, well, really?
Yeah, it was during a presentation about some new Microsoft product, and he was so pumped up, he leaped off the stage and landed right in the middle of the crowd.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
I know, right? But it just goes to show how much he believed in what he was doing.
He was willing to put his whole body into it, literally.
Exactly. And the crowd went wild. They loved it. It was this incredible moment of shared energy and excitement.
So it's not just about being loud or boisterous. It's about that authentic enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
That spark that can ignite a whole team.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about scaling a business. Because Ballmer, he clearly had a knack for this. He oversaw some massive growth during his time as CEO.
He really had a deep understanding of what it takes to build something that lasts.
Okay, so how did he actually approach it? How do you take a company like Microsoft and scale it to such a massive level?
Well, for Ballmer, it was all about building robust and scalable systems. He knew that to handle that kind of growth, you needed to have really solid foundations, Take the development of Windows, for example. As the user base expanded, they needed systems in place to manage updates, provide support, and make sure everything ran smoothly for millions of people worldwide.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
It requires a ton of foresight and planning, and it's easy to overlook that when you just see the end product,
Yeah, it's like building a house. You need a strong foundation if you want to be able to add more floors later on.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about internal systems either. Ballmer was also really strategic about acquisitions.
Okay.
He understood that acquiring other companies could be a really powerful way to scale quickly and tap into new markets.
That makes sense. But how did he make sure that Microsoft didn't lose its core values in the process of all that growth through acquisition?
That's a really important point. And Ballmer was adamant that even after integrating new companies, every division had to understand how their work fit into the bigger picture, how it contributed to Microsoft's overall mission.
Okay, so it was about making sure everyone was on the same page, even as the company was growing and evolving.
Exactly. He wanted to make sure everyone was rowing in the same direction.
Now, I've heard that Ballmer was also a big believer in the power of data.
Oh, absolutely. He was famous for saying that data is the key to understanding customer needs and making smart decisions.
And for Ballmer, this wasn't just some empty corporate slogan, right?
No, not at all. It was a fundamental principle that guided his leadership.
So it was about more than just collecting data. It was about using it strategically to make informed decisions.
Precisely. And he pushed Microsoft to become a truly data-driven company, gathering and analyzing huge amounts of user data.
That's pretty forward thinking, especially back then.
It really paved the way for how tech companies operate today.
It makes you think, how can we all leverage data more effectively in our own work?
It's a powerful tool, but so many people are still intimidated by it or just don't know where to start.
I know what you mean. But before we get too deep into that, let's talk about Ballmer's leadership style, particularly when it comes to his vision for the future of technology.
Oh, yeah. He was known for being bold, making big bets, even when other people were skeptical.
And probably the best example of this is Microsoft's shift toward cloud computing.
Right? Absolutely. While many were questioning this move away from traditional software, Ballmer saw the future unfolding in the cloud.
It's easy to forget now, but back then that was a huge risk.
It was a major departure from their core business, and a lot of people thought he was crazy.
But he was so convinced that this was the future of technology.
He had this incredible ability to articulate his vision and get people excited about it, even if they were initially hesitant.
And of course, we know now that he was right. Microsoft's cloud business is a major force in the tech world today.
It all started with Ballmer's willingness to take that leap of faith.
So it was a combination of vision and conviction, that ability to see the potential and then rally everyone behind that shared goal.
Absolutely. A key takeaway for anyone in a leadership position, it's not enough to just make decisions in the present. True leadership is about understanding where the world is headed and having the courage to bring your team along on that journey.
Makes you think about those times in your own life where you had to go against the grain, make a tough decision.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sometimes it worked out amazingly. Sometimes it was total disaster, to be honest.
But that's part of the process, right? Taking those calculated risks.
Totally. And that's something I think we can all learn from Ballmer.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just have to step outside your comfort zone, challenge the status quo to really make a difference.
Well said. I think that's a great place to pause. For now, we've covered a lot of ground from Ballmer's early days at Microsoft to his incredible vision for the future of technology.
Yeah, we have.
When we come back, we'll delve deeper into his leadership style and see if we can extract some more of those actionable takeaways that you can apply to your own endeavors.
Sounds good. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, so we left off talking about Ballmer's vision, for the future of tech. And it's kind of wild to think how that one decision to go all in on cloud computing basically changed the game for Microsoft and really for the whole industry.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was a huge shift. And you think about the scale of that change.
Right.
Microsoft built its empire on traditional software, and then Ballmer comes along and says, no, the future is in the cloud.
Yeah, and he was willing to risk everything on a vision that a lot of people didn't even understand at the time.
It's true, and that's what makes him such a fascinating figure, right? He wasn't afraid to kind of challenge the status quo, even if it meant disrupting his own company's success.
Yeah, but making that kind of bold move takes more than just vision, right? You have to be able to bring people along with you.
Oh, absolutely. You need buy-in. And that's where I think Ballmer's leadership skills really shine. He was a master communicator. He knew how to get people excited about his ideas, even if they were initially skeptical. He'd paint this picture of the future of what was possible and get everyone rowing in the same direction.
It's like he was a conductor leading an orchestra, right?
Exactly.
He had to make sure everyone was playing the right notes at the right time to create this incredible symphony of innovation.
I love that analogy.
But I imagine even with all that energy and vision, there were times when things didn't go according to plan.
Of course, no leader is perfect, right? And Ballmer definitely had his share of challenges.
Like what?
Well, some of his acquisitions didn't pan out the way he hoped, like the purchase of Nokia's mobile phone business.
Yeah, that one didn't quite work out.
It didn't, and sometimes his leadership style rubbed people the wrong way.
I've heard stories about that he could be a bit intense.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely a high-energy, high-pressure kind of guy.
But I guess the key is that he was willing to learn from his mistakes.
Absolutely. He wasn't afraid to admit when he was wrong and adjust course and try again.
So it's that adaptability that's just as important as having that vision.
Oh, for sure. Being able to pivot when things aren't working is crucial.
Now, besides vision and leadership, Ballmer was also known for building a strong company culture at Microsoft.
That's right.
What were some of the key elements of that culture?
Well, one thing that stands out is that he fostered this culture of high expectations and intense competition.
So he really pushed people to be their best.
He did. He believed in constant innovation, striving for excellence. It was a really dynamic environment where people are always learning and growing.
Sounds like it could be a bit stressful, though, constantly competing with your colleagues.
It definitely wasn't for everyone, but Ballmer also emphasized teamwork and collaboration.
So it was kind of balanced, right?
Exactly. A culture that was both demanding and supportive, where people felt challenged but also valued.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is, but I think it was key to Microsoft's success. It attracted some of the brightest minds in the industry and created an environment where they could thrive.
Makes me think of that saying, iron sharpens iron. You need that challenge to improve, but you also need that sense of camaraderie.
Well said. And I think Ballmer understood that. He knew that to build a truly great company, you need a culture where people feel empowered to take risks, to experiment, to learn from their failures.
And ultimately, his legacy at Microsoft is undeniable. He led the company through this period of tremendous growth and solidified its position as a global tech giant.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable when you think about it. And it's fascinating to see how his approach, that combination of energy, vision, data-driven decision-making, shaped not just Microsoft, but the whole tech landscape.
And that's what really sticks with me. It's not just about money or market share.
Right.
It's about that lasting impact you have on the world.
Yeah.
The way you inspire others to think differently, to push those boundaries.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, before we move on, there's one other aspect of Ballmer's story I think is worth mentioning. It's something that happened after he left Microsoft. And it really speaks to his character, his willingness to step outside his comfort zone.
Were you talking about when he bought the LA Clippers?
You read my mind. I
Yeah.
mean, who would have thought a tech CEO would go on to own a pro basketball team?
Right. It was definitely a surprising move, but in a lot of ways it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, Ballmer has always been passionate about sports, and he saw an opportunity to apply his business skills, his data-driven approach to a new industry.
So he took everything he learned at Microsoft, all those lessons about leadership innovation, using data to make smart decisions, and brought them to the world of basketball.
Exactly. He invested in analytics, brought in experts from the tech world to help him modernize the Clippers operations.
I love that it shows that these principles we've been talking about aren't limited to the tech world.
Not at all. Whether you're running a startup, leading a team, coaching a sports team, the principles of vision, energy, data-driven decision-making are universal.
That's a great point to remember. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Steve Ballmer's career, I want to leave you with a thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
If you were to adopt one element of Ballmer's style starting tomorrow, which would have the biggest positive impact on your work or even just your life,
Ooh, that's a good one.
is it that contagious energy, the focus on data, that bold, future-oriented vision? I mean, take some time to think about it.
This deep dive has given us all a lot to consider. Steve Ballmer's journey is a reminder that success isn't just about brilliance or luck. It's about hard work, strategic thinking, and the courage to embrace new ideas.
And that passion and energy to fuel those ambitions.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Steve Ballmer. We hope you've learned some things and maybe even found some inspiration to apply to your own journey.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries until next time. Happy diving. You know, it's funny, right? Like thinking about Ballmer's jump into the basketball world, it seems like such a left turn from tech. But when you really look at it, there are so many parallels.
Yeah, and what I find fascinating is that he didn't just like dip his toes in the water. You know, he went all in, brought that same energy and data-driven approach that made him successful at Microsoft. He saw a chance to use those principles in a new setting to shake things up a little bit.
And he wasn't afraid to challenge the way things had always been done, right? Yeah, like the NBA. It could be a little old school in how it operates, but Ballmer came in with this fresh perspective, you know, this willingness to really embrace technology and data.
Totally. He wasn't content to just sit back and watch. He wanted to be in the thick of it, learning everything about the game and using his knowledge to build a winning team. So he invests heavily in analytics, brings in people from the tech world to help modernize the Clippers operations, you know?
That's so cool. It really proves that the stuff we've been discussing, the vision, the energy, the data-driven decisions, it's not just for Silicon Valley.
Right. It applies to anything, really, any industry, any goal you're trying to achieve.
And it's about pushing those boundaries, being willing to step outside your comfort zone and, you know, learn from your mistakes along the way. Nobody's perfect.
Right, exactly. Ballmer had his fair share of setbacks, but he never let them hold him back. He kept adapting, and in the end, he did some pretty remarkable things.
It's that resilience, that ability to bounce back that sets the great leaders apart.
It's not about avoiding failure. It's about using it to grow.
I think that's a really important message for all of us. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Steve Ballmer's wild ride, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay, go for it.
What one thing could you do starting today to bring a little bit of that Ballmer magic into your own life?
That's a good one.
Right? There's more energy, more passion, a focus on data, or maybe it's about taking that leap of faith and going after that dream you've been putting off.
It's a great question. Think about what spoke to you the most in Ballmer's story.
Yeah, because sometimes all it takes is that little spark of inspiration to light the fire.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great exploring Ballmer's world with you. I hope you've gotten some good insights from it and maybe even some motivation.
Yeah, for sure. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing those limits until next time. Happy diving.